Hello and welcome to the digital tactics presentation for the House of Bubbles Canberra. My name is Samuel Coulter and I will be running you through the digital tactics for the House of Bubbles. I will also be reintroducing you to the buyer persona and the strategies that should be focused on. So, the buyer persona for the House of Bubbles Canberra is that of a female aged between 25 and 34, living in Canberra, usually working full-time through the week, allowing weekends to be free for activities involving friends and family. Those are typically outdoors in Canberra's parks or around one of the many lakes. She is willing to pay for quality, especially if it allows for a more enjoyable time with her friends and family. She is largely influenced by social media and spends a large amount of time each week browsing social media sites. Offline, she enjoys trying new cafes and is invested in her health and wellness as she incorporates exercise into her daily routine. Authentic content is what she finds most enjoyable online, and when brands incorporate user-generated content into their social sites, she will find these brands more believable. Our buyer persona spends roughly an hour a day watching video content online and prefers videos to be 30 to 60 seconds in length. Brands can build trust with the target market through social media channels. However, this does need to be supported with other owned channels such as websites and blogs. So the strategies that the House of Bubbles should be focusing on are comprehend, creating an understanding of how to act and behave like the target market will increase awareness amongst the market. Converse, build relationships with social media followers to encourage website and blog traffic. However, remembering customers don't want business-orientated messages. And contribute. Share valuable, authentic content that the target market prefers. So now for the first tactic, which is the creation of a website for the House of Bubbles Canberra. Currently, the House of Bubbles does not have a website at all, operating solely through a Facebook business page. With the creation of a website, this will extend the user experience another step and will help to increase the interest in the brand. This tactic relates to the comprehend strategy. You can see examples of what the website could potentially look like on the screen. With about and event sections, the buyer persona is able to conduct further research into the brand offering. It is said that if a company cannot be found in Google, it does not exist. By understanding how our target market behaves, we are able to attract them to either our social sites or our own sites like websites and blogs. As the House of Bubbles currently does not have any owned sites other than that of Facebook and Instagram social sites, our target market is not being driven to be involved with the brand on a deeper level. Our target market begins building trust with brands through social channels, and once that has been established, they then begin to look into the brand more through website and blog channels. If the House of Bubbles brand wants to continue to develop in the digital sphere, then creating a strong digital infrastructure is paramount. Our buyer persona may not begin searching for brands through Google, but website channels form an important part of their decision process, and excluding this channel leaves brands weaker overall. By creating links between owned channels like Facebook and your website, it is easier for the buyer persona to transfer between the two, and they are more likely to be converted into making an action with the brand. So our second tactic for the House of Bubbles Canberra is that of the creation of a blog with video content. By creating a blog, the House of Bubbles can begin to offer more to its buyer persona. This will help them build the trust between the consumer and their brand by providing information without aiming to constantly sell attendance to events or products. This tactic relates to the contribute strategy. I will now show you an example of a video that could be shared by the House of Bubbles to their buyer persona regularly.
Hey, and welcome to the House of Bubbles for a brand new fizzy testing session. Today we've got the Dalzotto Pacini Prosecco with us, and we're going to have this in the van for the next month or so. It's definitely a great Australian Prosecco, with the Dalzotto family vineyard planting the first Prosecco vines in Australia. So the Dalzotto Vineyard and Winery can be found in the picturesque King Valley in Victoria. The Dalzotto family originally came from Italy to settle in Australia, and they pioneered the use of Italian grape varieties and released the first Australian Prosecco. Now, the Dalzotto Pacini Prosecco, you get a pale straw, vivid green, but youthful hue. The aroma has a beautiful hints of fresh cut pear, citrus blossom, and a very small suggestion of spice jumping out at you. When you taste, It's soft, appealing and approachable. Gentle bubbles and alcohol combining seamlessly and giving you the maximum amount of freshness for a sip or two in the early afternoon. So when you come down to the van, it's definitely one to keep an eye out for. This weekend, we'll be at the Old Parliament Rose Gardens on Friday afternoon, Lennox Gardens on Saturday afternoon, and at Commonwealth Park on Sunday afternoon. I hope you've enjoyed this fizzy testing session, and we look forward to seeing you at the House of Bubbles.
Social media, staff at a favourite bar, and video content are all trust touchpoints for our buyer persona, each one influencing them differently depending on the circumstance. Knowledgeable staff are able to give input into what's good and what's not on the menu, providing insight others may not have and providing a higher level service. By encompassing industry professionalism and providing knowledge about drinks and service, not only a blog but also video content, the House of Bubbles can begin to converse with customers. Social media is where consumers can connect not only with brands but also with each other. Brands that share more authentic content and more video content are often more reliable and trustworthy. The buyer persona for House of Bubbles spends roughly 1 hour daily consuming video content. By combining all three in the creation of a blog with video content, which can be shared on social channels to help drive traffic through the blog and to the website of House of Bubbles Canberra, they can begin building positive conversations with consumers whilst providing knowledge and insight which might not have been shared otherwise. So our third tactic for the House of Bubbles Canberra is that of the implementation of a social media content plan. The examples shown here are from posts potentially on Monday and Tuesday for the House of Bubbles Canberra structure when posting content to social sites. Often posting content that is not relative or misleading, and often choosing only to post meme-like images. Combined with irregular posting times, and currently the Facebook page and other social sites have no clear direction or purpose. This tactic relates to the converse strategy. I have provided on this slide and the following slides examples of a week's content and posts for the House of Bubbles to share on Facebook. It is said that organisations are defined through their published content and customers want authentic content. As stated before, we know our buyer persona begins to build trust on social media, and they also rank authenticity highly when looking at brand content. Authentic content helps to build relationships with consumers, as it adds a personal touch to the messages being distributed. In particular, authenticity ranks high with millennials, especially when they are consuming content to build brand preferences. Combining authenticity and social media and understanding the relationship between them and the consumer can benefit in helping improve consumers' journey through the purchasing process, and the AIDA consumer model. Here we have potential post ideas for the House of Bubbles Canberra for Wednesday, Saturday and Sunday. And here are potential ideas for the House of Bubbles Canberra Facebook page for posts on Thursday and Friday. That concludes the presentation for the digital tactics for the House of Bubbles Canberra. I hope you have enjoyed it and thank you for listening.